let's get your opening remarks. Himanshu, you start. You might have heard the minister saying, look, it was inevitable. There was nothing we could do. The water was coming in from the barrage in Haryana. How could we stop it?
So let us first understand the nature of the flood that we have in Delhi. And when we are comparing with 1978, 1978, the water released from the Tajewala barrage, which was there in place of Hatnikund barrage now, the release was more than 7 lakh cusecs. And the highest amount of water released this year was 3.6 lakh cusecs for only 2 hours. So with 3.6 lakh cusecs, water level in Delhi has gone 1.2 meters above the HFL of 1978, when in 1978 the water flow released from Tajewala was more than 7 lakh cusecs. In 2010, 2013 and 2019 also, the water released from Hatnikund barrage has been more than 7 to 8 lakh cusecs, but the water level never breached to 207.49, which was breached by 1.2 meters this year. Lastly, there are 5 sites from Hatnikund to Delhi. None of them has reached HFL. It's only the Delhi that has it. What all this says is, Atishi is wrong in saying that what happens in Delhi, I mean, Delhi is not, this flood is not dependent on what's happening. Actually, the flood disaster is largely because of what is happening in Delhi, because there has been rise in riverbed level, there has been obstruction in the river flow, there are at least 30 bridges and flyover either under construction or completed. There has been more paved areas, which means less percolation and recharging of groundwater, and there has been much more erosion. The deforestation has increased, silt levels have increased. So when the silt once enters Delhi, there is no way to flush it out because there is so little flow. So all of this reason put together, the carrying capacity in Delhi.
So you're saying the manner in which encroachments have taken place along the river bed, the manner in which construction
and the floodplain
has in a way contributed to the flood water.
Majorly.
Okay, let me bring in each of you. Mr. Ravindran, Professor Ravindran, you want to respond to that? That just the design of the city now is such, and all our cities really, are so vulnerable. In Mumbai, it's the mangroves. Here, it's the river bed. In Bengaluru, it's the lakes. All of them are now increasingly vulnerable to this kind of rainfall. You're on mute, sir.
Absolutely right. I think Delhi has reduced its capacity to carry water, mostly because of the large-scale encroachment that took place during Commonwealth Games time and the subsequent developments that came on the riverbed, as well as Delhi developing all the low-lying areas across the Yamuna on the eastern part of the city. They were all low-lying areas. They were not developed till the 70s. It's in the 70s after the whole movement in housing development took place in those areas where high-rise buildings were built in high-density form in highly flood-prone areas. And now what you see today is that those areas are flooded. That is all the Trans-Yamuna areas. But 5 kilometers east of the river is actually vulnerable floodplains. And the water that you see today in front of Red Fort is there because Red Fort was along the river. The river has receded.
So this is the revenge in a way of the river. This is the revenge of the river for what we've ended up doing with it. Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, you also want to respond to that because, you know, it has taken these floods for us to wake up to the reality of how we are destroying the cities. Much like Mumbai had to wake up in 2005, Bengaluru has to wake up last year. I don't know whether they'll wake up, because there's a very powerful lobby that sees benefit in this constant construction, and maybe citizens also are part of it.
I agree with you, Rajdeep. If you look over the last 50 years, since 1970, we've had increasing number of extreme events. However, most of them have actually increased thanks to a changing climate. The frequency of extreme events has increased from 2005 onwards. There were about 250 extreme events between 1970 and 2005 in India. And since then, there have been about 310. If you look at flooding itself, on average, until 2005, India was facing maybe 3 extreme flood events a year. Now we are facing 11 extreme flood events a year. So when you ask the question, are we waking up? I would argue, unfortunately, we are perhaps not waking up enough. Because if a flooding event happens in Bangalore, then Mumbai does not care. If it happens in Mumbai, then Delhi does not care, and so forth. You've got to understand that the climate, in addition to our haphazard development, we also have to understand that climate risks are non-linear. So what was a normal in the past becomes much less, and what was extreme in the past becomes normal now. What's normal, what's extreme now becomes normal 10 years from now.
But is it too late? Is it too late, Dr. Ghosh? Is it too late, given the fact that the city has already reclaimed the river? As the mangroves have been reclaimed in Mumbai, as the lake area has been reclaimed in Bengaluru, is it too late now? How do you reverse it?
No, it's not too late. The point is you have to start preparing urban infrastructure that is designed for understanding what kind of a changed climate and what kind of extreme hazards we are going to be facing. Just today, we have, for instance, at CW released a report on strengthening India's disaster preparedness. And we show that 66% of Indians are now exposed to extreme flood events. But only a third of them are covered by flood early warning systems. So the number one thing we have to do is actually protect lives and livelihoods by having far more real-time early warning systems. Now, many states have already started doing that, and they should be credited for doing that. But real-time flood warning requires a different level of investment. Secondly, we have to, and I think this was mentioned by Himanshu, the carrying capacity of these urban areas is being breached. So we cannot keep building in the same concentrated landmass and expecting that suddenly when there is an extreme event that the landmass, that the geographical area will be better prepared. Thirdly, we have to start thinking, and this is hopefully what will wake up the citizens, that every dollar invested in disaster preparedness and resilience in the infrastructure actually saves $7, $8 in terms of the disasters avoided. So if we are interested in building roads and flyovers and metros and homes and offices, we've got to make this infrastructure climate resilient against the future. If we don't, it is our investment that is going down, pun intended, the drain.